Welcome back to Hungry for History. Have you ever heard of Joe Froggers before? Those are traditional treats from the northeastern shore of Massachusetts. They are huge molasses cookies flavored with rum. The origin of Joe Froggers is a bit murky. Like many other legendary foods, its culinary history is a mix of folktale and conjecture. Legend has it that Joe Froggers originated from a tavern in the early 19th century in Marblehead, Massachusetts. Joe Froggers were allegedly invented by Lucretia Brown, who named the cookies after her husband Joseph Brown. In today's video, I will show you how to make the molasses cookies and share the stories of Joseph and Lucretia Brown. Let's get it started! Born in November 1749 in Rhode Island, Joseph Brown was the son of a woman of African descent and a native gray-haired father. He was enslaved by Beriah Brown, who was a sheriff of Washington County, Rhode Island. During the Revolutionary War, Joseph was enlisted as a substitute for Beriah's son Christopher, because Beriah promised to him that if he would faithfully serve out his son's time, Beriah would give him liberty. After Joseph gained his freedom, he somehow ended up in Marblehead, Massachusetts. From historic records, we don't know why and how he made the move. In October 1793, Joseph mortgaged half of a saltbox house on Gingerbread Hill. On January 5, 1794, Joseph married Lucretia Thomas. Born in 1779 Salem, Lucretia was a daughter of Peter and Lucretia Thomas, who has been enslaved to Samuel Tucker in Marblehead. Lucretia was probably born free since her parents were manumitted before or around the time of the Revolutionary War. After wedding, the Browns settled down in Marblehead. By 1795, they saved enough money to buy the other half of the house and turned it into a neighborhood tavern. According to local newspapers, it was not a racially segregated tavern. Blacks and whites frequently gathered at the tavern after a long day of physical labor to spend the night dancing, drinking, and gambling. In reminiscence of happy times at the Browns Tavern, elders in Marblehead remembered gathering at the Browns Tavern during the election week, which was to honor the General Court's election in Boston. Locally, it was, quote, the social event of the year for most Marbleheaders, unquote. Lucretia would serve election buns and cakes, homemade beer, and rum. At night, Joseph would play the only tune he knew, that was Yankee Doodle, but play it in different tempos to keep the dancers satisfied and happy. According to the Marblehead tale, Joe Froggers were a staple in the tavern. Lucretia named the cookies after her husband and the frogs in the nearby pond. Their shapes resembled lily pads that were wide and flat. Today, Marblehead is a beautiful resort town for yachting. But back in the 18th century, this place was known as an important fishing port and for its shipbuilding industry. The fishing industry relied in part on black labor who worked as fishermen and sailors. According to the legend, Joe Froggers were popular with fishermen. They could keep well on long sea voyages as they had no dairy and eggs to spoil, and the combination of rum, molasses, and seawater kept them chewy for weeks. Lucretia was an entrepreneur. After Joseph passed away in April 1834, Lucretia lived in their house for another 23 years until death. She supported herself by selling baked goods and making rose water. One local remembered her as an industrious woman and very smart, and, quote, it was a custom when ordering a wedding cake to have Aunt Chrissy bake it, for its delicious flavor made her famous for miles around, unquote. When retelling those stories about Joseph and Lucretia Brown, elders in Marblehead often refer to the Browns as Black Joe and Aunt Chrissy. They called the tavern Black Joe's Tavern and the pond nearby Black Joe's Pond. After Lucretia passed away, the tavern was given to her adopted daughter, who was also granddaughter of Lucretia's sister. In 1867, her daughter sold the house and moved to Salem. The house remains a private residence till today, but it still keeps the sign saying Black Joe's Tavern. This year, the Marblehead celebrates the Browns by naming their new elementary school after Lucretia and Joseph Brown. Unfortunately, I did not find any images of Joseph and Lucretia. And I also did not find Lucretia's Joe Frogger's recipe, but I do find one recipe published by Marblehead magazine. The magazine claims that Joe Frogger is one of the 10 dishes that a Marblehead has to know, and the recipe is the original lily pad shaped Joe Frogger cookie recipe. This recipe calls for 7 cups of flour, which is too much for me today, so I cut the recipe in half. I use 3½ cups of unbleached all-purpose flour. As for shortening, I use a ½ cup lard. Lard was widely used in cooking and baking in the US before competitors such as Crisco and the vegetable shortening hit markets. Amelia Simmons' 1796 American Cookery uses lard in a variety of cakes and pie. To sweeten the cookie, I use 1 cup of molasses and 1 cup of sugar. Make sure you use true molasses, not blackstrap molasses. Blackstrap molasses has less sugar content than regular molasses and will make cookies taste bitter and a bit salty. How do I know? Because I used blackstrap molasses when I first tried the recipe, and those cookies turned out to be bitter and dry. I've never used rum in baking before, so I purchased a bottle of dark rum as recommended by some professional bakers. As for spice mix, I use ½ tablespoon of ginger, ½ teaspoon of cloves, ½ teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I also use 3/8 cup of water, ½ tablespoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. First of all, I mix the molasses with the baking soda, and I leave it aside and let it sit until the color becomes lighter. Then I sift the flour with the spices and salt. Next, I mix the rum with water. I use a stand mixer to make the cookie dough. In the mixer bowl, add in lard and sugar and beat on low speed until the mixture becomes fluffy. Then add in the flour mixture, the molasses mixture, and the rum to the mixer bowl. Turn on the mixer until everything is well incorporated. Then take the cookie dough out. The dough is very sticky, so I wrap the dough in plastic and refrigerate overnight until it becomes firm. After letting the dough chill overnight, I take it out and find the dough is still a bit sticky. So to prevent the dough from sticking to the counter, I sprinkle a generous amount of flour. I divide the dough into 3 parts and work with 1/3 of the dough at a time. Take 1 part. Since it's still very sticky, so I cover it with flour. And then I roll it out to 1/4 to 1/3 inch thickness. I don't have a circle cookie cutter on hand, so I use a canning bottle instead. The bottle opening is 3 inches wide. In total, I cut about 20 cookies. Preheat the oven to 370 degrees Fahrenheit. On a baking sheet, place 6 cookies each time and bake the cookies for about 10 minutes. Then transfer cookies to a rack to cool completely. It's time for me to try out those cookies in front of you. When I filmed this part, those cookies has been 2 days old. They still smell really good. When they just fresh out of oven, and the outside was crispy and the inside was soft. And now they are soft outside as well. The cookie is soft and chewy. It has a strong molasses flavor. I think the molasses and dark rum blend perfectly. I'm gonna take another bite. Thanks for watching today's video. If you like today's content, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I hope you have a great day. Bye bye!